In the name of the Creator, the Redeemer, and the Sustainer. Amen. As Ralph Waldo Emerson once stated, a weed is but a plant whose virtues remain undiscovered. Weeds are beneficial for both our lives and for our ecosystem. Or at least that's what I like to tell myself, having so many weeds in my own backyard. Did you know that if you put a plant in soil with weeds, its roots will intermingle? They'll run down the path where the other plant's roots have died and rotted in the soil. And fungi will eventually connect the roots, evening out nutrients and finding water for the plant. Weeds are beneficial. And I think that the weeds that Matthew is talking about in today's gospel are most likely bearded darnels, also known as mimic weeds, as they closely resemble wheat, and they are plentiful in Israel. You see, the difference between darnel and wheat is evident only when the plant matures, when the ears, the tops, appear. The ears of the real wheat are heavy and will droop, while the ears of the darnel will stand up straight. Until the weeds and the wheat mature, you'll never know the difference. And I admit, I don't really know the difference between wheat and weeds, or weeds in my own plants in my own backyard. You see, I'm the kind of person who, when we were buying our home, when moving to St. Andrews, Seattle, I wanted that home that was like a concrete jungle where we were surrounded by rocks and decking. We found the perfect house. It even had AstroTurf that we could vacuum instead of mowing. Where the weeds, well, there just weren't that many. I was so excited to move into that house, but unfortunately we lost out in a bidding war. So eventually we found the perfect house. And at first I thought, oh my goodness, this house cannot be for us because it's in this beautiful garden. A garden that was matured, curated, and taken care of by a man with a master's degree from a university in England in horticulture. I thought, there's no way we can take care of this yard, to mow it, to weed it, to do it justice. And in some ways, I was right. I don't know if we're doing our yard any justice, but we try as much as we can. Sometimes I leave weeds in the ground just because they're beautiful and because I don't know the difference between a plant and a weed. So most things grow in our garden, and I like it that way. And I've learned to enjoy the beauty of the earth with both the weeds and the plants. If I didn't have the weeds, I wouldn't have the glorious mornings looking out and seeing the flowers and the hummingbirds. I'm glad I took a chance on not living in a concrete jungle without weeds, and instead opted for the beauty of God's creation, as messy as it is. And I think that that's how this parable this morning of the weeds and the wheats sees weeds as indispensable. Who are we to judge the difference between the weeds and the wheat? There is an ambiguity between the two. And Jesus makes it clear that we cannot be certain who is in or who is out. Well, it's easy, often way too easy, to divide the world neatly into wheat. Those of us who are righteous, and the weeds, the evildoers among us. Both the gospel this morning and our experience tells us that such categories are fluid, coexistent, and difficult to discern at its best. Grays in a black and white world. Most of us, you and me and the world, we're a composition of both plant types, and are not purely one or the other. We are weeds and we are wheats, both pulling and pushing at the same time. Like the servants in our parable who see all of the weeds and want to immediately pull them up, we too see all of the things in others that are not like us. not like us in who we include or exclude, not like us in who are moral or who we see as immoral, not like us in the way that we vote, not like us in the way that we choose to protect ourselves, not like us in so many ways, the weeds. And this is the danger of passing moral judgments too quickly, of choosing between darnels and wheat. Maybe, just maybe, Jesus is telling us to slow down and to have patience like God has patience with us. To let both plants, weeds, people grow. If we make judgments too quickly, then we might fail people too quickly. And I think that we are like the field in our parable today. We, our world, and ourselves are a messy mixture of both weeds and wheat. Yet God is always patient with us. May we all pause to remember that God has not passed judgment on us. So why do we find the weeds, the faults in others? When we are focused on finding the weeds in others, we risk not finding the good in our midst. When we are putting all of our energy in seeing the weeds of others, I think that we can forget to see the good, to find the wheat in ourselves and in others. This parable invites us to be the wheat, to be the good seeds, to seek justice and love, to embody and to see the beauty in God's creation.